In 1969, Dodge built a car so fast that NASCAR literally rewrote the rulebook to stop it. This car won its very first race, broke the 200-mile-per-hour barrier, and terrified every competitor on the track. And yet, when Dodge tried to sell it to the public, buyers took one look at that bizarre nose cone and that towering rear wing and said, "No thanks." Dealers couldn't move them. Some sat on lots for over a year. A few dealers actually cut off the nose and wing and sold them as regular Chargers just to clear inventory. Today, one of those cars just sold at auction for $3.3 million. This is the story of the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona, the missile on wheels that was too fast for its own era. The story begins with failure. In 1968, the Dodge Charger was one of the most beautiful muscle cars on the road. That swooping fastback, the hidden headlights, the aggressive stance. But on NASCAR superspeedways, it was a disaster. That big upright grille caught air like a parachute. The stylish tunnel rear window created lift at high speed, making the back end want to come around on the banking. Cars were spinning out at 180 miles per hour. It was dangerous, and it was embarrassing. Dodge tried to fix it. They created the Charger 500, a modified version with a flush grille and flattened rear window. It was better. But Ford had been busy too, and their new Torino Talladega was still faster. Even worse, Ford went hunting for Chrysler's biggest weapon. Richard Petty had raced Plymouths his entire career. 92 wins, all in Chrysler products. He was the face of the brand. But after the 1968 season, Petty asked Chrysler to let him switch to the more competitive Dodge Charger. They refused. So Petty did the unthinkable. He signed with Ford. The greatest driver in NASCAR history had just walked out the door. At Chrysler, it was a 5-alarm fire. This is where the story takes a turn that sounds like fiction. During the 1960s, Chrysler had a missile division that worked on military rockets and the Mercury Redstone program. When engineers needed someone who understood aerodynamics at extreme speeds, they pulled a man named John Pointer directly from that missile division. A literal rocket scientist, reassigned from Cold War defense work to fix a stock car. Pointer examined the Charger and immediately identified the problems. His solution borrowed directly from missile design, an 18-inch fiberglass nose cone that replaced the flat grille, shaping the front end like the tip of a rocket. For the rear, a 23-inch tall aluminum wing mounted on the back fenders to press the car down at speed. The wing sat so high because it needed to clear the trunk lid on the street version. On the race car, engineers had originally designed it just 6 inches off the deck. But NASCAR required Dodge to sell 500 of these to the public, which meant the trunk had to actually open. So up went the wing, accidentally landing in clean air above the car's turbulence, which turned out to be aerodynamically perfect. When Dodge general manager Bob McCurry first saw drawings of this thing, he called it the ugliest car he had ever seen. Then he asked one question: will it win races? The engineers said yes. McCurry told them to build it and ordered the styling department to stay away from the project. He didn't care how it looked. The result was a car that looked like nothing else on any road or racetrack in America. An elongated nose that made the Charger look predatory. A rear wing tall enough that you could practically walk under it. Cooling scoops on the fenders. A flush rear window. Every surface was shaped to cheat the wind. Dodge shipped 503 brand new Charger RTs to a Michigan company called Creative Industries, where workers bolted on the nose cones, wings, and window caps, then sprayed a quick coat of paint to blend everything together. Of those 503, only 70 received the fearsome 426 Hemi engine. The rest got the 440 Magnum. Dodge lost over $1,000 on every single car. This was never about profit. This was about revenge. September 14, 1969, Alabama International Motor Speedway, now known as Talladega Superspeedway. the brand new track that NASCAR founder Bill France had spent years and millions building. The Charger Daytona was about to make its debut, but there was a problem. During practice, tires were shredding on the rough track surface. Firestone pulled out entirely. Over 30 of NASCAR's top drivers, led by Richard Petty, boycotted the race over safety concerns. Bill France refused to cancel. He tried driving the track himself to prove it was safe, but couldn't crack 160 miles per hour. When he accused drivers of being afraid to race, one driver reportedly punched him. The situation was chaos. France filled the field with amateur drivers from a lower series and offered fans free tickets to the next Daytona 500 as an apology. In the middle of this mess, the winged Dodge Daytona rolled onto a NASCAR track for the very first time. Driver Richard Brickhouse, who broke the boycott at Chrysler's urging, took the number 99 Daytona and won the race. The car's first outing ever, a victory. Second place Jim Vandiver believed he'd actually won and contested the result until the day he died. Among the unknown amateurs who raced that day was a young man named Richard Childress, driving a 1968 Chevrolet Camaro. France paid the fill-in drivers generously. Childress left Talladega with more money than he'd ever seen and used it to start Richard Childress Racing, which would eventually win 6 NASCAR championships with Dale Earnhardt. 6 months later, on March 24, 1970, Buddy Baker strapped into the number 88 Charger Daytona at Talladega for a test session. On the 34th lap, he crossed the timing line at 200.447 miles per hour. The first stock car in NASCAR history to break 200 miles per hour on a closed course. Baker called it the best feeling he'd ever had. NASCAR officials were present to certify the speed. The record was real, and the racing world was changed. NASCAR's response came before the 1971 season. New rules restricted winged and aero-bodied cars to engines no larger than 305 cubic inches. The Daytona ran 426 and 440 cubic inch engines. The rule effectively killed all 4 winged warriors: the Dodge Daytona, Plymouth Superbird, Ford Torino Talladega, and Mercury Cyclone Spoiler II. They were simply too fast for the technology and the competition of their era. In total, the Charger Daytona won just 6 NASCAR races across 2 seasons. Not a dominant record on paper, but those 6 wins came with the 200-mile-per-hour barrier shattered, the entire rulebook rewritten, and a legacy that would only grow over the following decades. The same cars that dealers couldn't give away in 1970 are now among the most valuable American muscle cars ever made. That fully optioned Hemi 4-speed example that sold for $3.3 million at Mecum Monterey in 2024 was the most expensive winged warrior ever auctioned. It was also the most optioned Hemi Daytona known to exist, ordered new by a high school English teacher in Phoenix, Arizona, who checked every single box on the order form. Someone who bought a Charger Daytona for $3,860 in 1969 is sitting on a car worth anywhere from $220,000 to over $3 million today. The cars that buyers rejected, that dealers stripped apart, that NASCAR banned from the track, have become rolling monuments to the moment American engineering collided with Cold War rocket science and produced something the sport had never seen before. A car designed by missile engineers, deemed ugly by its own manufacturer, and too fast for the largest racing organization in the country to allow. The Dodge Charger Daytona wasn't built to be loved, it was built to win. And half a century later, the world finally caught up.